Hello, and thank you for joining us for the Preparing for the Chapter Kickoff webinar. My name is Desiree Williams, and I serve AK Psi as the Digital Education Coordinator. I will be your webcast producer. Before we dive into the content, I would like to review the web-based features available to you. This webinar will be advanced remotely, but at the bottom of your screen, there are multiple application widgets you can use throughout the program. If you are accessing the webinar via a mobile device, you may need to scroll down or over on your screen to access these widgets. Additionally, each of the windows on your screen are able to be resized and moved to fit your learning needs. A copy of the slideshow and other additional materials are available in the green Resource List widget. The group chat is available for you to interact with other attendees and the presenters during the presentation. When posting, it will share your first name and last initial, but please share your chapter and university as well. If you have any technical difficulty, please click on the Help widget with the question mark icon. If you have a question throughout the program, you can launch the Q&A widget to submit your question. All questions will be discussed at the end of the program in the order they are received. During this webinar, we will review how to hold a chapter kickoff meeting and the best way to prepare the chapter for the upcoming year. We will cover what to discuss at the first meeting back after summer break, how to share the chapter success plan, and how to keep the meeting fun for everyone. For our program today, Jasmine Cherry and Kimberly Millies will be presenting. Jasmine was initiated into the new Chi chapter of Alpha Kappa Psi at the University of Central Florida in fall 2009. Since then, she has been active with the organization in many different roles. She served as the Vice President of Professional Activities, helped install the Psi Beta chapter at the University of North Florida, and won Section Director of the Year. She currently serves as the Regional Director for the Atlantic Gulf Coast region. Jasmine is a proud Florida native who loves teaching, learning, and traveling. Kimberly was initiated into the Delta Phi chapter of Alpha Kappa Psi at the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee in spring 2015. She graduated with a degree in Human Resources Management in May 2017. During her undergraduate career, Kimberly served as Chair of the Judiciary Committee, Historian, and VP of Membership. In addition to AK Psi, Kimberly is a member of the Society for Human Resource Management, Women in Business, and Gamma Phi Beta sorority, where she served as the Personal and Chapter Enrichment Chairwoman. She relocated to Indianapolis to join the Heritage Center staff in January 2018 as the Chapter Educational Resource Coordinator for Area 2. She is an avid traveler, having visited 10 states in 2017, and she spends her free time reading, cooking, and exploring Indianapolis.
Hello, everyone, and I hope you are all excited to kick off another great year. The start of a new school year always brings a mixture of emotions, as you might be excited for the start of your term, or you might dread it, but I'm sure you're excited to see your brothers after the summer. Each new term, you likely have a routine to prepare academically, such as reviewing your course schedule, finding out where your classes are located, ensuring you have ordered the right textbooks, and ordering and gathering your school supplies. Alpha Kappa Psi shouldn't be any different. At the start of each year, the chapter officers should be preparing the membership for the term and the year ahead. Now, how should you do that? With a chapter kickoff meeting. The chapter kickoff meeting should always be the first meeting after summer break. This serves as a way for the chapter to reconnect with the fraternity, allows chapter officers to share the final chapter success plan, and promote events at the local, regional, and national level. It also helps to reignite everyone's passion for the fraternity. It may sound like a lot, but the chapter kickoff meeting should be treated as a celebration. It's been a long summer, and it's normal to take some time to just readjust the campus, both with classes and the fraternity. You may have been communicating with your membership throughout the summer, but the first meeting back is when you should hit the ground running and really set the stage for expectations and goals of the upcoming year.
Before the chapter kickoff meeting can take place, the chapter officers will need to do some legwork to prepare for the meeting, aside from arranging the logistics of where and when it will be held. First, chapters will need to finalize the chapter success plan for the year which they started back in the spring. If you remember, the first draft was due on May 1st. Fraternity volunteers and staff then reviewed the plans and provided feedback, and chapter officers should have revised the plan over summer. The deadline to receive RD approval based on any feedback was August 15th, so the chapter success plan should be finalized for the kickoff meeting. The chapter success plan includes a lot, and it shouldn't be shared by just one person. So have your executive board members each prepare reports for their area. Each officer should be the subject matter expert on their roles portion of the success plan and be able to share it with membership, which we'll talk about in a few slides. Another important part to remember is preparing your chapter's members. In order for them to get the most out of the meeting, they need to come prepared to listen, learn, and engage. If they come in without any prior information, they will be less likely to engage with the content. So don't just give them the date and time of the meeting and expect them to show up. Share with them any documents and the agenda so they know what will be discussed.
Let's talk about presentations. Many officers will have experience with public speaking, but sometimes getting up in front of a group of people can be difficult. Some people will not have a problem, but it may even be the first time for others. Presenting in front of the chapter can be great practice for giving presentations at an internship or a job, so be sure to prepare your officers for the task. Review some of the tips on the slide with your officers in advance. Tip 1, speak up and be clear. Nobody likes when someone is standing at the front of the room preaching at them, but they can't hear a word of it. It should go without being said, but make sure all of your officers speak loudly and clearly when presenting. Tip number 2, don't make assumptions. Your chapter officers have spent months working on the chapter success plan, and a lot of what will be presented is common knowledge to them. For most of your members, though, it is going to be brand new information. When your members ask questions or as you watch them listen, don't make assumptions about what you think they should know. If they seem like they aren't understanding something, go back to the beginning and explain it again. Your members are the ones who are going to help you carry out the chapter success plan. So be patient with them as you explain all the work you have done over the past few months. Tip number 3, use visual aids. Some of the content that needs to be covered will be dense. There are going to be a lot of numbers, policies, and text that won't be easy to remember. Help both yourself and your chapter members by using a visual aid such as a PowerPoint. Using a visual aid will allow them not only to digest the information, but also give you cues about the pace of the presentation. Members may need to ask questions for further explanation or receive more background information at that time. Tip number 4, make it engaging. Anytime you can make a presentation engaging for the audience, they are more likely to remember the content and less likely to get distracted.
As mentioned earlier, it can take some time to readjust to school. Over the summer, most members aren't spending a great deal of time focusing on Alpha Kappa Psi, so it's not uncommon for members to forget details about chapter operations, policies, or what the chapter did during the previous year. To help bring members back into the fold and prepare them for the upcoming year, level the playing field by reminding everyone where you are starting from as a chapter. What were the major goals and accomplishments from the previous year? Did your chapter progress toward a major goal or finally achieve that goal? Did you hold a large event that everyone should be proud of? On the flip side, did you not meet your goals, which means you need to work harder this year? Don't make this portion more difficult than it is. If you have members of the chapter who are officers in the fall or spring who are still in the chapter, have them present this section and talk about how they completed the chapter success plan reflection. It may seem silly to talk about the events and activities that just occurred a term or two ago when many of your members were in attendance. But we all know what a summer break can do to cause us to forget. Additionally, keep in mind that some members who are going to be in your chapter kickoff meeting were pledges last term and may not know everything that happened. Giving everyone a base level of knowledge to begin the year will help them all feel ready to tackle the new term, just as officers were when creating the chapter success plan. It is also important to do a risk reduction review every term. While we all know it is not the most exciting content, reviewing the risk management policies each term is extremely important for the safety of your members. The more you talk about the policies, the more they will become ingrained in your mind, and you will be more likely to live them out. Since the chapter kickoff will already have a lot of content, and you want to keep it upbeat, exciting, and fun, consider hosting a more formal risk management refresher at a different time. If you decide to do that and make it a separate meeting, be sure to share the date with your chapter members. It should not be an optional meeting. It is strongly encouraged to have all members sign the Risk Management Assurance Form. This form is available on the website and involves each member signing and agreeing that they have read and understand the policies of the organization. Don't take this lightly, as should something happen, these forms are proof that you agreed to not only understand what the policies are, but to abide by them. So be sure to set a deadline for when the Risk Management Assurance Form should be signed and back to your chapter leadership. This deadline should be after you go through the policies, but relatively soon after the start of the year.
Once you have gotten everyone back up to speed on the fraternity policies and what was accomplished last year, it's time to present what's next. If they haven't seen it before, share the actual document of the chapter success plan with your members. If they aren't an officer, they may not even know what you're talking about or know what Smarter Select is. Pull up your completed plan and walk through it. You don't need to walk through every box, but anything that could involve your membership is important to cover. It makes no difference to your members that you are on semesters and you updated your chapter address, so you can skip the first page of chapter information. Do your members need to know how many members will be graduating each term and how many you anticipate losing to resignation? It helps you determine your recruitment goals, but how you arrived at the number isn't as important as the actual goal itself. Keep those things in mind as you present the information. It would be a good idea to make notes of what you want to review ahead of time so you can make the best use of your time with your brothers. Another good suggestion is to ask yourself, why is this information important to our brothers? If the information is for the good of the entire group, be sure to tell them. 1, what the information is, and 2, why it is important for them, or rather, how it makes their chapter experience better. The main objective is to ensure your brothers understand the goals of the chapter. What are your big priorities for the year, and how will that impact your chapter operations? Have there been any changes to your operations that will affect them? Remember, as you are presenting the success plan, use your chapter officers as presenters. Each officer is the subject matter expert in their area, so let each officer present their own section of the plan.
Aside from goals, an important thing to cover is the chapter calendar. The calendar should be readily available to all members, but going over the calendar at the first meeting is a good way to highlight events throughout the term. This not only includes chapter meetings, pledge meetings, and rituals, but also chapter, regional, and fraternity-wide events. It is never too early to start promoting and talking about the regional and fraternity-wide events. Regional assemblies will be coming up quickly, and some will have already opened registration before you started school. This is a great opportunity for all members to experience AK Psi on a broader scale and to make connections with other brothers. Then, start promoting PBLI and convention if it is a convention year. These events will likely involve some out-of-pocket expenses, and if you prepare your members with as many details as possible about these events early enough, they can start to make plans and determine their financial situations.
As chapter officers know from creating the chapter success plan, it contains a lot of stuff. For individual members that may not hold leadership positions, it can be daunting to hear everything the chapter plans to do for the year. They may even wonder what it matters to them since they aren't officers. This is where it is important to relate everything back to the individual member to show how they can get involved with the chapter operations and why they should want to. Just because they are not elected to a position and didn't help create the chapter success plan doesn't mean there isn't an opportunity for them to help execute it. A chapter is only as successful as its members, and it takes effort from everyone to stay efficient and operational. For a chapter to meet its goals on the chapter success plan, everyone has to play a part. This is where retention comes into play and ensuring you are providing opportunities for your general members to step up. Chapter officers are the ones leading the way through the early work of completing the SWOT analysis to find out where the chapter needs to focus, but every member joined the organization to learn and grow. Executing the chapter success plan is how to do that. We recognize that there are only so many leadership positions in the chapter, and many of our chapter members may have been interested in officer roles, but weren't elected. There are a lot of places where officers will need help, so involve all members who are motivated and ready to step up. If your chapter has not already chosen committee chairs and members, be sure to talk about those opportunities. After sharing the chapter success plan and the areas of focus for the year, your members will have a better idea of where they might want to help. If they don't have ideas about where they would like to get involved, give them some suggestions. You know your brothers and their strengths, so guide them in a direction that will help them, whether or not they realize it. Say you have a brother who you know is really good at graphic design and is interested in working for a public relations firm. Maybe they ran for your chapter's vice president of marketing position and got beat out by an older brother, and now he or she is feeling let down. Instead of leaving them to fend for themselves to find a new place to contribute, ask them to be a part of the committee for your leading event of the year. Maybe that's a huge fundraiser where the chapter is hoping for a lot of attendance, or a smaller event that you want to see grow. Not only will the chapter benefit from capitalizing on the talents of your membership, but the members will as well. You are providing a great opportunity for brothers to get involved in places where they may not have thought they were qualified. Personally asking or recommending a brother can help boost their confidence, demonstrate their value to the chapter, and help your chapter's retention long-term as brothers feel appreciated for what they have to offer. Creating these opportunities for your members and showing them how these opportunities will help them achieve their goals will increase your members' engagement with the fraternity, and the chapter will be more likely to succeed in executing their chapter's success plan.
Speaking of goals, another important thing to do at the start of the year is to develop personal goals. As we just talked about, a lot of your chapter members have experiences they want to gain and opportunities they want to take advantage of. Just as the chapter created its goals on the chapter success plan, each member should consider making his or her own goals for the year, and they don't have to be Alpha Kappa Psi specific. If members would rather focus on academic goals, professional goals, or even personal goals related to their friends or family, that is fine as well. One of the most common methods of goal creation is SMART goals. Many of you have likely used this method to create goals for classes, and officers did as well during the chapter success plan creation. Be sure to give an overview of the method as a refresher. S stands for specific. You have a much greater chance of completing your goal if it is more detailed and specific, as opposed to broad and open to interpretation. The goal should cover who is involved, what you want to accomplish, where it takes place if there is a specific location, a time frame for completion, and any requirements or constraints. Sometimes it can also be helpful to include why you are making the goal in the first place, and to include the purpose or benefit from accomplishing the goal. M stands for measurable. When creating your goal, it has to be something that you can easily identify as achieved. If you don't have a set criteria to determine your progress, it will be hard to say for sure if the goal was accomplished. A stands for attainable. This means your goal has to work for you. As you are setting goals, consider everything else you have going on, including the time, energy, and money it may take, and other obligations that may be higher priorities. To be attainable, a goal should be something that is possible for you to do, and you still want to try despite everything else going on. There is no use making a goal when in your heart you know you aren't going to accomplish it because of other factors out of your control. R stands for realistic. Not every goal is going to be achieved, and some are going to be harder to achieve than others. When creating goals, both personal and for the chapter, they need to be realistic. It doesn't make sense to set a goal of finishing every class assignment 1 week before it's due if there are items you won't have until a few days before. Saying that your chapter is going to get 300 people to your recruitment events when you typically only get about 100 would be a huge increase, and thus not likely. If you want to create these lofty goals and aim to reach them, make them a long-term goal and set a more realistic target goal as well. Lastly, T stands for timely. To set a goal, you need to give yourself a deadline. Otherwise, there is no sense of urgency. Saying you are going to go to the gym is great, but will you be going this week or next year? Setting a timeline for completion will help you stick to your goal. Remember, goals can always be adjusted as time goes on. Personal goals do not need to be shared with the entire chapter or followed in order to penalize the member if that goal isn't achieved. Like any goal, the level of difficulty will vary. What we recommend is if your members are comfortable sharing, have them do so. Saying a goal out loud can make you more accountable, as you have vocalized your intent to another person or group. At minimum, pair your members and have them share their goals with a partner. This can be something they already feel comfortable with, or an opportunity to act with members of the chapter they don't know well. These people can be their accountability partner throughout the academic term and can follow up with them to see how they are doing.
While the first meeting should be an exciting time to think about everything that's coming up in the next year, don't forget about what's about to happen right away, recruitment. Hopefully, your chapter officers have hit the ground running and are already prepared, but it's important to prepare the rest of the chapter as well. Chapter officers were given a year-end size goal for the chapter, and it is important to review this with the chapter and to explain how that number is impacted by recruitment, resignations, and suspensions. Each member plays a vital role in getting potential new members to recruitment, so if you have a very high stretch goal from your regional director, the membership should understand that, and they should know that they need to step up and get to work. To assist with that, chapters should be holding a recruitment workshop. This is a critical time of year, and everyone needs to understand all aspects of recruitment. How are you promoting recruitment? Are you using flyers, tabling, classroom visits? When is the campus activities fair? Most of these events cover long periods of time, and they need a number of members to help promote the organization. So, do you need additional member support for these areas? Ask them now if you have not already shared this information over the summer to be sure that they are appropriately staffed. Remember that the excitement you bring when explaining the upcoming Rush events to brothers will be the excitement and energy those brothers bring to the Rush event. Recruitment should be a positive and energizing experience for brothers and potential members. Keep that energy up. Additionally, take this opportunity to go over recruitment techniques and give your members an opportunity to practice. More senior members who have gone through recruitment before may feel like they already know everything there is to know about recruitment. So in that case, get them involved in training. Younger members are starting from scratch, so have your older members be examples and act out different scenarios. It is a good idea to give brothers a sample script of phrases and questions to use. This will help the brothers speak more comfortably with potential members. Remember to also remind your brothers to spend as much time as possible talking to potential members. A lot of brothers standing in one area together may be intimidating for other people. Like with risk management, all of this information can be covered more deeply in a separate meeting, but be sure to give your members the dates and times of all upcoming recruitment events and activities at minimum. They should also understand their expectations and requirements. This will help them plan and be more likely to attend or provide excuses for things that they are unable to make. We've covered a lot of things that should be included in this chapter kickoff. Since it's the first meeting, it may be longer than your average one, so keep timing in mind as you plan the event. As you set up the meeting schedule, don't just jump right into the heavy content of risk management and policies and goals for the year. It's been a long summer, and you should ease everyone back in. To keep it fun, start off with some activities, games, or sharing. If you have a large chapter, not everyone will be able to share, but a few members can talk about their summer experiences. If a lot of people have things that they want to talk about, maybe sharing turns into a segment at every chapter meeting. Another way to get the energy flowing is to do a few team building activities. They don't need to be long or difficult or physical, but something to get everyone out of their seats and interacting with each other. Most of your membership hasn't seen each other in 2 or 3 months, and there are new members of the chapter now. If you need a few ideas, consider playing bingo with facts about your members on the game board. You have to walk around the room to figure out who matches the facts on the sheet, and when you have figured out the entire board, you win. Another great idea is to have people pair up and talk for 60 seconds about what they did that summer before switching pairs. This could even be done in small groups if you have a larger chapter. Again, these are simple ideas to get your brothers connecting with each other and building relationships, as everyone will have to work together to accomplish all the goals throughout the year. Getting people laughing and enjoying themselves will make everything more fun. Lastly, we all know the best way to entice your brothers to show up for meetings is food. If your chapter has the funds, consider providing food. It doesn't have to be much, but some pizzas or even just snacks like cookies and chips can go a long way in setting the mood of the meeting and getting them excited about the year to come.
So, let's recap what we've discussed. The chapter kickoff should be an exciting first meeting to celebrate the new year. Chapter officers need to spend some time preparing for the meeting. They need to have all the logistics ready, provide their members information in advance, and be ready to present the chapter success plan. When presenting the success plan, be sure to keep it relevant and always connect it back to the impact on the member. What does it mean and how can they help? The start of the year is a clean slate. The outcome of last year's goals doesn't impact your goals for this year. So, start the year off fresh and get everyone excited for all the opportunities ahead.
Thank you, Jasmine and Kim. Now, before we transition into the Q&A portion, I want to review the key skills that were highlighted in the content. Through presenting the chapter success plan and information to the chapter, officers will gain oral communication and confidence skills. By setting personal goals, chapter members will gain decision-making skills. Through participating in team-building activities and sharing about your summer experiences, chapter members will build relationships. At this point, we are going to transition to questions. As stated earlier, you can launch the Q&A widget from the menu dock to submit your question. If we do not get to your question now, we will respond via email, and this feature will remain open even in on-demand viewing. So we'll go ahead and get to the first question. How do we get our chapter excited about goals they may not have been a part of making?
This is Kimberly, and I think the best way to get the chapter excited about goals that they weren't necessarily part of in the initial discussions is explaining how they will benefit by completing those or working towards the goal. Ultimately, the goals were decided to improve the chapter and continue moving it forward, and that is really the job of every brother in the chapter. Reiterating how it can be an asset to individuals, whether it be through increased networking opportunities, increased friendships, things like that, will really get buy-in from just general members.
Jasmine, did you want to add anything?
I just wanted to just reiterate that the buy-in really falls into how does that relate to the individual member. So Kimberly talks about networking and think about your brothers who are looking for those skills to build a resume and things of the sort. Those brothers that are still polishing themselves or still learning things or maybe don't have that internship that semester, those type of things. So just on an individual level, how do they give back to the chapter? Because a lot of brothers would feel like the chapter gave a lot to them as well.
All right. Next question. Sharing goals and discussing policies and procedures can be dry and boring. So what are some ways that we can make it exciting for our chapter members?
I think a great way to go over those things isn't necessarily to have one or two people just kind of reading aloud. There's a lot of really great online tools where you can make things into a game, whether that be Jeopardy or things of a similar fashion that make it more interactive. Obviously, it never hurts, as we mentioned in the presentation, to have food, prizes, things like that. They could, if your chapter has a point system, maybe get some extra points. But it just encourages participation, and it changes it up from the general meetings that they're used to, and that'll get them engaged.
Another way that the chapter can break it up is maybe encouraging the brothers to discuss those policies and procedures and the goals within their groups. And so that would make it more engaging because the more they talk about it, the more they'll internalize it as well.
Okay, next question. How soon after we start the school year should this meeting occur?
You definitely want to have it as soon as possible because there's going to be a lot of information that you are going to need to be discussing with your members. And with how early a lot of chapters do recruitment, you want to make sure that they're as informed as possible. I would definitely say if you haven't scheduled your first meeting, you want to get that done ASAP. And if you just have a general chapter meeting on the calendar already, the chapter kickoff meeting is what that will become, essentially. So while you might want to go over, any old business or new business that you want to think about for the semester, the chapter kickoff meeting is what your first meeting should look like.
For the chapters that may have already had their first meeting, because I know some universities started on Monday or maybe they're starting later on this week. If you already had your first meeting, I don't think it's too late to have the chapter kickoff. Let's go ahead and schedule that for the next meeting, so that will give the brothers an idea of what goals they're working towards for the rest of the semester. So even if chapters have already had their first meeting, it's not too late, but we definitely want to get the ball rolling on having a kickoff meeting to get everyone on the same page.
Perfect. And then our next question is, what if we don't have any dates or events finalized on the chapter success?
When you completed the chapter success plan, we didn't necessarily request any hard deadlines. We understand that sometimes you're just not going to know stuff months in advance, but you should absolutely at your kickoff meeting be finalizing dates for recruitment tabling, the events that you're looking to hold. And if you don't have your chapter meetings on the calendar yet, you definitely want to firm up a time and place for this kickoff meeting and then decide as either an exec board or a chapter what date and time is going to work best for everyone to have chapter meetings throughout the rest of the academic year.
Some of the chapter success plan might include like alumni events or large chapter events for the brothers themselves, and maybe you don't have the dates for those events finalized, but maybe you have your rush calendar finalized. So that goes back to engaging your brothers and getting the entire chapter involved in the goals. So maybe that's a good time to form up a committee and start really hammering out those smaller details so that the chapter is more likely to reach the goals outlined by the chapter success plan.
And moving on to our next question, our chapters plan was basically worked on by one person because the officers were scattered across the state and are not familiar with the plan. And how do we kind of bring everybody up to?
That'll definitely happen, especially when the chapter success plan is built to be completed over summer. I would recommend having every one of your officers log into your chapter's success plan and then reading over it before your very first exec meeting. That way you can all knowingly discuss it at your first or potentially second meeting if you've already had the first one. And you can kind of all get on the same page. If you need to add more clarifying information, you can decide that part as a group, but at least then you all have a base understanding of what it is that you'll be working towards over the upcoming term.
I agree. I think that it won't be uncommon to see that some chapters may have had someone who carried a lot of the weight in completing the chapter success plan, but of course to review it before it's presented to the brothers, but also for those executive board members who may feel like they didn't really have a chance to provide their input, they should definitely go through their section more than once. So for example, if you are the vice president of finance, maybe you go through the budgeting and things like that more than once, and it would be a good time to reflect and see how you can improve on the chapter success plan, because there are periods throughout the semester where you can kind of reflect and see how your chapter did before we do the next chapter success plan. So it's definitely not too late to review all of those things.
All right. In the presentation, you guys mentioned playing games and activities. So what are some good team building activities?
I really like anything that gets people out of the chairs. The more that you are moving around, the more you're willing to kind of put yourself out there. So I always recommend anything where you're moving. You can take the group outside and just have the general meeting. You can find some activities, small activities for the group as a whole. There's a wealth of knowledge online. You can look up recruitment things or just team building exercises. You can even reuse things that you would have done in class. I know they have a ton of those activities at the beginning of a new semester or quarter. But definitely just look into that type of stuff. You want to get people to be open. And you'll want to do that throughout the semester just so things don't get repetitive and you find that you're losing your audience. You always want to make sure that you're circling back to make sure that everyone is paying attention and adding value to your meetings.
I agree. I think a lot of the team building activities will be things that require you to kind of get up and sort of giggle and be a little bit uncomfortable. So if anybody's familiar with Atlantic Gulf Coast, or Brother Jackie Hanarte, you know that we do competitive rock, paper, scissors, so that's always a good one. We've done creating the sounds of the rainforest together, so just anything that kind of lets you have a little bit of fun and giggle and just have that quality time with your brothers is good, even if it's just, 5 minutes of some breakup in the meeting. Those are always good activities to do together.
Well, those are all the questions we have right now. We'll give our viewers a few more minutes to come up with some more. But for Kim and Jasmine, if you want to add a few final thoughts that you haven't mentioned, now's the time.
Just a couple things to make everyone aware of. We here at the Heritage Center, myself and the other chapter educational resource coordinators, and Mackenzie, who is the one who kind of put all of this together, we are here to be a resource to you as both a student member and a volunteer. If you ever run into a situation where you aren't certain of the answer or you just want more support, please don't ever hesitate to reach out. We are here to support you. That is what our job is, and we love being able to assist you in finding success. So please don't ever hesitate or think that, there's not time to ask for a hand.
My final thought, hi, this is Jasmine. My final thought that I wanted to leave everyone with is just to remember that this is the beginning of a new semester and to keep that excitement level really high, to really think positively on the goals and the future of your chapter, and that will really help propel you forward. This would be a good time to think about your why and why we're doing what we do. Maybe even write it down so that later on in the semester you can look over it and reflect again on how you made your goals or how your chapter should feel about your activities that you do throughout the year. And just be positive and excited about it, because this is a really good time of year to love AK Psi.
All right. Well, thank you both so much for answering all those questions. For our viewers, be sure to check out myakci.org to view supplemental materials and additional resources. And also, before ending the webcast, we would like to ask that each of you please take the survey found in the doc. Completing the survey will help us to ensure the learning objectives were met of this program, and we are continuing to provide you with the resources and materials that you are wanting to enhance. And once again, I'd like to thank Jasmine and Kim for their insight and expertise. And thanks to our viewers for listening to the program. If you have ideas for future webinar topics or suggestions to improve on this program, please email education@aksi.org.